Have you ever wondered what the world was missing while everyone focused on war zones and sanctions? While headlines screamed about conflict, Russia and China were quietly building something that could redraw the trade map. A road so significant it could shift global power routes overnight. It's called the Meridian Highway. And though it doesn't get the flashy headlines like pipelines or ports, make no mistake, this road is monumental. Over 2,000 kilometers of asphalt cutting right through the heart of Russia, purpose-built to channel Chinese goods directly into Europe, bypassing sea routes and Western-controlled choke points. But here's what makes it more intriguing. The entire highway lies on Russian soil, yet the economic engine behind it is China. This is not just infrastructure, it's a geopolitical message carved in concrete. We're building our own route, literally around the West. No reliance on the Suez Canal, no bottlenecks in Singapore, no NATO oversight. Russia gets a high-speed corridor to ship exports west. China gets a shortcut to Europe, skipping unstable shipping lanes and avoiding Western watchtowers. And the West? It's not even invited to this new trade lane. Now here's where it gets strategic. This $9.3 billion mega highway isn't funded by the World Bank, the EU, or any Western lenders. Instead, it's pitched to and partly financed by Chinese investors, many tied directly to Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Why? Because to China, this isn't a Russian road. It's a new land artery, a secure overland link to Europe that evades sanctions, shipping chaos, and geopolitical traps. Since the Russia-Ukraine war erupted, China's shipping routes through Europe have tangled in delays, sanctions, and soaring insurance costs. Rail through Belarus turned risky. Sea lanes got politicized. So now Beijing is betting on an inland bypass, and the Meridian Highway is the missing link. If China controls the capital and Russia the terrain, then together they command the flow of trade. That's real leverage, especially as tensions with the West harden. Remember, the shorter the route, the cheaper the freight. This corridor slashes billions in costs and repositions supply chains eastward, away from Western ports, Western insurance, and Western rules. Every kilometer poured in concrete is a kilometer less reliant on Western systems. And that's the point. Russia and China aren't just building roads. They're laying down escape routes from Western financial dominance. If they can trade huge volumes over land, at speed, and outside Western banking channels, then the old levers of sanctions, tariffs, and choke points begin to crumble. Let's break this down. Europe becomes harder to cut off from Russian energy or Chinese goods. U.S. naval power loses its edge when freight skips the seas for trucks and highways. And financial sanctions bite less if transactions flow through China's CIPS instead of SWIFT. This road is part of a bigger design. Russia pivoting east, China building west. The more it expands, the fewer entry points the West can block. It's not just about moving goods. It's about sidestepping control. This highway isn't about flashy politics. It's about avoiding them. Every mile means less dependence on Western ports, Western insurance, Western banks. Russia and China are investing in permanence. Systems dominated by Washington, Brussels, and London become optional, not inevitable. Here's the kicker. Once built, roads don't care who's in charge. Highways outlast elections, policy shifts, and news cycles. That's the beauty of infrastructure. It's policy-proof. This isn't some spontaneous experiment. It's retaliation laid in asphalt. The idea floated for years. But Crimea in 2014 and Ukraine in 2022 turned it urgent. Every sanction, every bank freeze, every SWIFT ban pushed Russia and China closer. The more they were boxed out, the faster they poured cement. Russia sells to China. China moves faster into Europe. Together, they reroute supply lines that once passed through NATO ground. Where the West escalated with financial tools, Russia and China struck back with physical ones. The Meridian Highway reshapes entire regions. Central Asia, long dismissed as a mere buffer between East and West, is now emerging as a pivotal transit hub. Countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan are suddenly vital, hosting dry ports, logistics hubs, customs posts, and energy terminals. Not bullied into an alliance, but drawn in by pure economic gravity. With the meridian slicing across Russia and nudging the Kazakhstan border, this region becomes China's gateway to Europe, with zero need for risky detours through Ukraine, Belarus, or hostile EU routes. In short, Central Asia is no longer peripheral. It's becoming central to a new supply chain reality, and the West can't wish that away. Zoom out further, Russia benefits from this road, but China quietly secures the lanes. Unlike its roads in Kenya or Pakistan, this corridor isn't about raw materials. It's about controlling how finished goods enter Europe. China funds it, coordinates it, and shapes the rules, all under the radar. While the West debates tariffs and supply chain decoupling, China quietly pours concrete for a post-dollar trade zone. This highway is the first land artery linking two sanctioned nuclear giants, with a shared goal: replacing the maritime routes that the U.S. Navy once dominated. No Cold War standoffs this time. No Berlin walls. This is a war of infrastructure, where the fastest, cheapest, and most independent corridors decide who calls the shots. Western capitals still command banking and technology, but Moscow and Beijing are betting big on freedom of movement. Blocked at sea? Go by land. Cut off from SWIFT? Use alternatives. This is the new battlefield. Not ideological, but logistical. And it's no pipe dream. Billions are already flowing in. Roads are being paved. Terminals built. While Western politicians argue over TikTok bans and chip wars, this highway, and what it represents, inches westward every single day. Here's what many overlook. This corridor doesn't hinge on politics. Not Kremlin elections, not China's leadership shifts, not even a thaw in Western diplomacy. Once a road is laid, it stays. Once a trade route proves profitable, it runs itself. Sanctions can expire. Leaders come and go. But asphalt endures. This wasn't masterminded in a Beijing or Moscow think tank a decade ago. It evolved, pushed forward by sanctions that turned from threats into construction deadlines. That's the hidden irony. The West's pressure forced the East to build alternatives. And once built, they're permanent. Yes, the West still commands huge power. The dollar's dominance, banking systems, tech superiority, and military alliances remain unmatched. But every new corridor that works without them chips away at that dominance. Move goods without NATO waters, settle payments without Western banks. The more that happens, the less painful sanctions become. Does this mean the West is doomed? Not at all. But its power is no longer guaranteed. It must now be earned. This shift won't come through headlines or political speeches. It's taking shape silently in way stations, toll gates, and concrete beams stretching across Eurasia. The Meridian Highway doesn't just transport trucks. It transports influence. It shows that today's world isn't held together by treaties and declarations alone. It's held together by who owns the lanes. Russia and China don't need to trumpet this from rooftops. The message is embedded in steel and cement. A new trade map is being sketched. This time, it doesn't begin in Brussels, Washington, or Berlin. It begins on a quiet roadbed deep in Russia, funded by China, built for tomorrow. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.